Yeah, and Mike, I think that's even for Republicans on the Hill who were trying to get past the, quote, Mexican judge who happens to be from Indiana. When you start floating conspiracy theories all day suggesting that the president may be in on this, and then you go on Howie Carr's show at night and refuse to clarify it and say, you know what, I'll let people figure out whatever they want to figure out. That's when suddenly, you know, Republicans on the Hill say, this is just too much. I don't care whether it upsets some of my constituents at home or not. I am not going to have my name tied historically to a guy that's talking about Mexican judges, who's talking about conspiracy theories with Vince Foster, who's talking about conspiracy theories with the President of the United States being in cahoots with ISIS, and who is going on and on and on about a Muslim ban that is as anti-American as any proposal I've heard.
You know, there's so much coming out of the Trump campaign, and there's so much rhetoric that Donald Trump uses that is over the top, that what he did the other morning, that Willie just referenced, that you were just talking about on TV, kind of gets lost in the shuffle. But if you look at it, and if you read, and if you hear the level of his voice when he says it, and the intent in his voice when he says it, he comes perilously close to accuse a sitting president of the United States, Barack Obama, of treason.
Yeah, I agree.
And what's so remarkable about this is that you had Harold Ford Jr., maybe a third of the Democratic Party at one point suggest George Bush was in on the 9/11 attacks. But you didn't have a Democratic nominee.
No.
You didn't have a Democratic politician. You didn't have a Democratic leader saying that. Donald Trump, if he becomes a nominee of the Republican Party, is for the most part the head of the Republican Party pushing around that conspiracy theory. It cannot be explained away by Republican leaders who meekly and quietly line up behind him. Abraham Lincoln says, we cannot escape history. We cannot escape history. These Republicans who are endorsing Donald Trump cannot escape history if they do not make him back off those words, if they do not make him back off the Muslim ban, if they do not make him back off some of the worst elements of this political campaign that's gone wildly off course.
I think the question to your point, just an extension of it, is if you stay with him, and if he, by some chance, is elected president, how do you ever trust him? If you're in a room with him and you're negotiating and he says one thing, how do you know when you walk out of the room that simply a totally different set of things will happen, or he will say once he leaves, as he continues to evidence now? His words, Mike, I cannot agree with you more. Not only did he not back down from him when asked repeatedly afterwards, what did you mean? This was the most dangerous of double downs, and every time we think it can't get more dangerous, it does. And for him, I mean, I live with him, and he basically said he knows what he's doing, as he talked about the president. And you and I are Southern, we hear people all over the country know those kind of expressions, and I knew exactly. And I think every Republican has to take a step back and wonder, what are we getting into? Not just as a party, but what am I doing as an American supporting someone who suggests that the President of the United States is somehow or another in cahoots or supporting people who want to do harm to the country.
By the way,
because of some silly theory, some disproven theory that he began to advance years ago around a birth certificate, et cetera, et cetera.
By the way, Republicans that are sitting in Congress, you know, some may be wringing their hands because people are supporting Donald Trump. A lot of people are supporting Donald Trump. He's a presumptive nominee. This is something you take care of in one town hall meeting. Call a town hall meeting. Say, this is why I'm not going to endorse Donald Trump until he does 1, 2, 3. And you go there and you explain. And I had to explain why I was running Newt Gingrich out of town. A pretty popular Speaker of the House. Went around the district, held town hall meetings, explained that he turned his back on the very conservative values that got us there, talked about the runaway spending, talked about the compromising on a lot of the issues that were important to conservatives, and at the end of the day, they understood. These politicians don't need to run scared. They can actually lead. They can go home and lead and say, until Donald Trump does X, Y, and Z, he does not have my support. Does that mean I'm supporting Hillary Clinton? No. But it does mean I'm not going to support somebody that will not only lose to Hillary Clinton, but ruin the Republican Party for the next generation.
I wonder if some of these men and women in Congress aren't getting closer to that position. If you watched yesterday them have to answer again for something else Donald Trump said, whether it was Mitch McConnell or Paul Ryan, they are exasperated for having every day to have a mic in their face and say, what do you think about the thing Donald Trump said this morning, and have to be able to somehow tap dance through that. You heard Bob
And by the
Corker.
way, guess what? Donald Trump loses, goes back to Mar-a-Lago, he's golfing, he's got great stories to tell for the rest of his life, and he's fine. He'll be a happy guy again. Kelly Ayotte loses. Ron Johnson loses. Who knows? You know, maybe Republicans lose in Pennsylvania. Maybe they lose in Ohio. They get wiped out in the Senate. Paul Ryan's historic majority gets wiped out in the House. You know, what does Donald Trump care? He's going to be golfing. He's going to be in Scotland. He's going to be flying around on his plane. He's going to be talking how great he is, how he got stabbed in the back by Republicans, how the media was unfair, and he'll have a great life. That's why I don't understand why they don't stand up to him now and say, hey, this isn't your toy to play with.
Right.
This is our country. This is our party. This is our conservative movement.
So do you think, either of you having been in Congress, Harold, I'll ask you first, do you think either of them now can, some who've endorsed already, some who haven't but have said we're considering endorsing, can they step away from that at this point?
Sure they can.
And will they?
I think Joe is spot on. I think at some point, Paul Ryan is a decent human being, and one of the, I think, positive things that's happened to the body politic, his elevation. John Boehner, I think, was a terrific speaker, but Paul's elevation was a good thing for the overall body politic. This has to hurt him personally. I know him. This is not whom he is. So it's not as if you have 2 weeks of this. You've now got 5 additional months, and who knows what he is capable of doing, Donald Trump, over the next 5 months. Mitch McConnell has already got very close to saying he can't do
Mitch
this.
is close. Lamar Alexander basically said, who says he's my nominee? And now he's down. You know, I hate to keep going back to it, but I said it last week. Everybody jumped on board when it was a tied race. I said, I wonder what they're going to do when it's a 10-point spread. I guess we're going to find out.